I'll just start it over. So if anyone joins, you guys can hear it.
My girlfriend is abandoned and looking in such good condition, but my social anxiety was kicking.
Can you hear it? So if I could put it lower, higher.
And I was more focused on acting like a normal, party-going human being. Flash forward about 2 hours and several drinks later, and we're hanging out with a small group of people off to the side of the dance floor. In the midst of conversation, a random girl then appears. She was in maybe her mid-20s with dirty blonde hair, skeletally thin with sunken eyes. "Do you have a phone I could borrow?" she asks. Her voice sounded odd, almost like a growl, but plenty of people have abnormal voices. Without thinking, I responded affirmatively and handed her my phone. She grabbed it eagerly and wandered away just a short distance. I turned back to my friends and just continued my conversation. After a couple of minutes, I glanced over at her and received a bit of a shock. She had the phone to her ear and was speaking to someone, and now staring at me. Unblinkingly, with her eyes so focused, I felt like she was staring through my soul. It was extremely unnerving. We stared at each other for probably 20 seconds like that, all the while her still talking away. After about 10 seconds, I realized that off to the side of my head, around my ear, but on the inside was tingling and stinging. It started out as a minor annoyance, but gradually progressed to outright pain, until suddenly it disappeared at the same moment she broke eye contact with me. She then slowly walked over, handed me my phone, and with a slight smirk on her face and no words, backed away into the crowd. Slightly freaked out by this point, I turned to Steph and told her that we needed to leave. She gave me a puzzled look, but after seeing the expression on my face, grabbed her purse without another word and walked with me back to the car. We got back to the house and crashed for the night. After waking up the next morning, I realized that having a few drinks had probably just made me paranoid.
Oh my god,
After all, she was
congratulations.
just a harmless girl.
I swear I didn't mean that. Why did this never work for me? It hates when I do live streams. I hate myself.
Except these are commands that she would recognize. I've also noticed that my ear seems to be hurting a bit, but on the inside, almost like a pressure headache or something. It must be an odd coincidence that it happens every time I try to use Siri, but that's getting harder and harder to believe. I'm writing this though because of something that happened last night. I was woken up at about 3 in the morning. Steph was at her parents' house for the evening, so I was all alone, and my ear was killing me. It felt like it was literally on fire. The pain was even making my eyes water. My phone was repeatedly making that beep beep sound that it makes when Siri is activated. Once I got out of the bed, it stopped, but the screen was still lit up. I walked over and looked, and it was Siri on the screen. And right there on the screen, plain as day, Siri's response read, "You've made a terrible mistake. You know that, right? Beep beep."
Beep beep.
Number 4. My mother passed away recently, and she was only 35. She had me when she was very young and just barely 17. Since my father was never around, I went to live with my grandmother shortly thereafter. She was an old and bitter woman, but she became much quieter when I came to live with her. Hours and hours she would just sit, rocking back and forth in that chair of hers, mumbling under her breath. Sleeping well as you could imagine. Just as I was about to drop off, I heard a familiar beep beep sound spring from my iPad. I opened my eyes to see the screen lit up, casting an eerie shadow of my chair along the back of my room. For some reason, Siri had been triggered. After a moment, it double beeped again, and I saw the screen change. I reluctantly climbed out of bed and made my way over to the chair. The iPad displayed a list of suggested things to say to Siri to warrant a response. In the top right-hand corner, it displayed a word that had been said. Help. Had I not been so tired, I perhaps would have gotten worried, but at this point, I just wanted to sleep. So I clicked the iPad off and reasoned that it must have just been faulty. Climbing back into bed, I heard it double beep again, and after a few seconds, once more. It then spoke, "Talk to Siri." I was about to get out of bed again when it beeped once again, then said, "You can't?" This was really creeping me out. A double beep again, and then, Let me think about that. Finally, it popped up. Okay, I found this on the web. At this point, I thought that this was enough. Clearly, there'd been some sort of bug in the software, so I got up and picked the iPad up off the chair. I almost didn't read the conversation that was going on with Siri, figuring it would just freak me out. And now I really wish I had. It read, "Why can't you hear me? Talk to Siri." Let me think about that. It then proceeded to do a web search for "Why can't he see it?" I've now turned my iPad off and buried it underneath some clothes on the wardrobe. I don't want to look at that thing again. It must have been a software bug. It's just too coincidental, because my mom passed away in a car crash and she lost both of her legs. Number 3. Jane got her first iPhone for her 16th birthday, and it was the best gift she'd ever received.
Yo, friends. Yeah, are you tired of ranting on Insta about having no one to chat with? Yeah.
3 questions. She asked Siri. Now, that obviously couldn't be, right? But Jane just kept asking more and more questions. Well, on Jane's 17th birthday, she asked Siri yet another question, but Siri's response was, "I'm her parents." So she buried the phone in the backyard and told her parents that a kid at school had stolen it. All when I don't understand. At the same time, bright blue light started flooding through her bedroom window. The same detrimental electronic. And tired of being the butt of everyone's joke and tired of Siri. He'd been having issues with his new iPhone since he'd bought it. The unique Siri beep sound soon became engraved in his mind. Every night without fail, he would endorse no signs of wear and it's like new. He expected the phone to sell within 5 days or so and thought that he could live with it for that much longer. It was then that with only 2% battery remaining, his iPhone lit up stating deleting eBay listing for item number and proceeded to list the number for his iPhone. Jake bolted awake. He then heard the beeps again. Reading the screen, he groaned. Posting a listing took long enough to begin with, and now he'd have to take the time out of his day to do it again. It then popped up again. Sending image 792.jpg. He then grabbed his phone and went straight to the File Explorer app that he downloaded. 792.jpg.
What time is it?
Hi, sweetheart. Did I just wake you up?
Then appeared on his screen where criminals had defended their actions using the poor excuse of "a creepypasta made me do it." Interesting. And Siri popped back up again, looking for "where should I stab someone if I want them to suffer?" At this point, Jake simply ignored it. The phone was going straight to the store. Even if they only gave him $50 for it, at least it would be gone. It then popped up again, looking up "how do I cover the mess in my hallway?" There was no point in listening to it anymore. He just lay facing away from it, trying to ignore the beeps and that creepy, irritating voice. It then said, looking up the perfect crime. Number 1. About a month ago, my fiance and I drove to North Carolina for her cousin's wedding. We were staying in this old cabin in the middle of nowhere with her family, so the setup was already something from a horror movie. We were staying in the bedroom in the basement, and on the second night in, I got up around 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom. I took my phone with me to use the flashlight so that I could actually see. I then set the phone down, whipped out my hog, and started peeing. I then hear from the corner of the bathroom, "Is there something jacked?" It took me a few seconds to realize that Siri had gone off on my phone by itself. A few seconds later, I started getting lightheaded and tingly and started blacking out. It scared me so bad that I was actually passing out. I had to finish as fast as I could so that I could sit along the side of the bathtub and wouldn't fall and hit my head on something. So even though it seems weak, I've never been scared so bad that I almost passed out. To make it more embarrassing, I'm a 6'3", 210-pound man. So thanks, Siri. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated.
What is life?